Rahman Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, members of ICAP and distinguished guests. Madam Hina Usmani, Chairperson, Overseas Coordination Committee, Ms. Khurshid Kotwal, Zishan Ijaz, our distinguished council member, Mr. Shoaib Member, Chairman, UK chapter of ICAP, Mr. Farooqi, Kashif Farooqi, head of SOCPA's team, Mr. Abu Talib Hadri, Secretary ICAP. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is indeed a great pleasure for me to be here and to just deliver a short presentation before you. At the outset, let me just congratulate Hina and her team for a marvelous work that they have done. And this is for the first time that such a convention or such a program has been held on a webinar basis on such a mass scale. Thank you, Hina, and for such a marvelous work. Secondly, the team deserve a full round of applause and a big hand from all of you because of their marvelous work. The IT team is working day and night to make this event a success. I think ICAP has gone very far in arranging these types of programs, and I think we are conducting these programs meticulously. The topic which has been assigned to me today is really very tricky. We all know, and as mentioned by Imran, that the world is passing through a difficult phase as far as the economy is concerned. We all know that this man-made crisis of Ukraine is inflicting heavily on all of us, especially the developed part of the world. However, they have their purchasing power which they can utilize and they can still circumvent against this difficult situation. But for a country like Pakistan, it is a difficult proposition because we are facing a two-edged sword. Number one, due to devaluation of currency, and two, due to global inflation on account of commodity crisis. If we go by the books, I can give you a brief presentation as far as this crisis is concerned and how we can avoid a full-fledged economic crisis. Can you please move to the next slide? Next slide, please. As depicted in this slide, the entire world is in the grip of recession and also the low GDP growth. The World Bank has projected a very dismal position of the entire world, and they've given a GDP growth of world GDP growth of 1.7%, which is too low as compared to 2.9. So that means that there's a clipping of 40% GDP growth around the globe. If we go for the advanced countries, it has been decreased from, they have projected it will be decreased from 2.5 to 0.5%. So once the GDP growth of such countries where the consumption is name of the game has been decreased or will be decreased, it will be a difficult task for or a daunting task for the rest of the world to cope up. As far as the rest of the world is concerned, especially the emerging economies, we have a growth of 3.4%, and incidentally, the same growth, average growth, was projected for this year as well. So to cut short, the purchasing power, less purchasing power of these developed economies will definitely hurt the economy of countries like Pakistan. When it comes to, next slide please, when it comes to Pakistan economy, Pakistan is facing a Herculean task to cope up with. We have got some external imbalances. Next slide, external crisis. This one, which you are showing in the screen. Yes. Thank you. The only problem which Pakistan is facing right now, which is really the problem, I would say, is the external imbalances, because my imports are obviously more than my exports. My service imports are more than my service exports. And we have no exportable surplus really under the given circumstances. However, I cannot say that we don't have the scheme, we don't have the strategy to just mitigate this. Obviously, last year, which was financial year 2022, 21-22, the projected figure of current account deficit, which was 2% of my GDP, it was around 8 billion, which was done by the State Bank of Pakistan. But unfortunately, it ended up in 17.4 billion, meaning that we have incurred or we have extended our imports or we have made more imports by $9.4 billion. So if we go by the books and if we add those 9.4 billion in our today's reserve, it could have been 14 or 14.5. You can safely say with this amount of reserve, a country like Pakistan was in the safe zone. So our ring fencing could have been much more better, and we could resist, we could fight it out, this recession, meticulously. However, due to overspending and over imports, we are facing this crisis which is hovering right now and which is hurting our economy and day-to-day life. Next slide, please. The cost of IMF program. Like most of the countries in the world, we are also in the IMF program. And obviously, when we borrow from IMF, they have their preconditions and which we have signed. So we cannot go back from our words, and we have to fulfill all these conditions. But right now, due to these heavy floods and due to imbalances of our import vis-a-vis export and the internationalization and Ukraine crisis, it is a very difficult task for all of us to fulfill all these conditions. Pakistan has to fulfill its commitment. And in order to fulfill its commitment, we have to see from where we can do it. Now, under the IMF program, we have signed that we will not borrow from State Bank of Pakistan. We have signed the autonomy of State Bank of Pakistan, and both the houses has approved a legislation whereby the State Bank of Pakistan is autonomous now. Hence, we cannot borrow from State Bank of Pakistan. Previously, the profits of the State Bank of Pakistan used to be the profits of Government of Pakistan, and those were construed and received as a non-tax revenue. It is not available anymore. Last year, we had a profit of 474 billion, which was a sizable amount and almost 25% of the non-tax revenue target. So which is missing now. So this is a big blow on the economy of Pakistan. Government cannot buy directly from the State Bank of Pakistan, and consequently we have to buy from the commercial bank. The commercial bank, they borrow or they get deposit from the common man, or they generate their resources from open market operation through State Bank of Pakistan as a lender of last resort. And they lend further to State Bank of Pakistan, to State Bank of Pakistan, and through that to Government of Pakistan in their gilt-edge security like T-bills, Pakistan bond, and sukuks. Consequently, they are charging whatever they are charging as a markup or as an interest or as a yield. In addition to that, we have to pay 2% extra to them. And that is costing us 680 billion per annum. Suppose if we are recovering 50% in the taxes, we are still paying them 314 billion rupees, 314 billion rupees to them. And imagine that only 1 million investors are getting the benefit of this bonanza. Whereas the cost is being paid by 220 million people. Suppose if I invest this much amount in Benazir Income Support Program or in SMP or SME loaning, I could have reduced my poverty by almost 50%. So this is a big blow. However, we have made a commitment and we have to fulfill that. Yes, we have to be an extra mile careful while negotiating the next program if the government intend to enter into another venture with IMF. So we have to look into all these factors before taking any decision. Next slide, please. I think I've already covered most of the things And I think, next slide, please. How? How to mitigate, how to circumvent, and how to go about and to deal with the situation. We have no option. Let me tell you very frankly. I know which is a bitter pill to swallow, but we have to remain engaged with IMF. And we have to complete this program in the best way possible, which is the only, right now, only way out of Pakistan's economy. This is my personal view and not the official view of the government of Pakistan. Gas and electricity tariff. To my utter surprise, when I look at the things from my bionic eye, I think we need a detailed ramp out or detailed total revamping of the entire whole scenario. We have got so many subsidies available, but they are being distributed indirectly to the rich people. We have to give targeted subsidy. We have to increase the tariff of gas and electricity, and we have to save that it should not be burden a class which is below the poverty line, or maybe the underprivileged class, or maybe the protected class. So what we have to do, we have to work out the numbers, I think, which we have. And what we have to do now, we have to pass through this direct subsidy through Benazir Income Support Program. We have to increase the tariff for the industry. We have to increase the tariff for the domestic majors. This is no free lunch. In the developed country, I know the purchasing power is very high, but still they are paying much higher cost of these natural resources than what we are paying. And I think it is the prime responsibility of government to engage with the stakeholders to revamp the taxation system, which I am being assigned to, and inshallah we will do it. This is the priority, that the spending shall be in the priority. The two major expenditures are, one, the interest payment or the debt servicing, and exchange regulation need to be tightened. I mean, we have opened up import of luxurious items. I think it needs to be clipped, and I hope that in future we have to rationalize it. Rationalization doesn't mean we have to stop import. We have to prioritize it. We have to import the essential good. We have to facilitate import of material which is being used for exports. And I think there is a direct correlation between import and exports, which is almost 65%. So we need to allow them against their remittances. In the meantime, exporter also needs to streamline their businesses, and they have to bring their money back to Pakistan on a fast track basis. Banking sector reform is also need of the hour. We have heard, and the investigation is on. Let us wait for the results. What we can achieve from those investigations, and how we can avoid such untoward incidents in the future. I think next slide. The next slide is thank you. Pakistan Zindabad.